Hey, my name is Jason with Elevate Workforce. And first, we want to thank you so much for your help on these industrial projects that we have that you'll be assisting us with. So we really appreciate you. If you don't help us, we can't get our job done. And so, again, we really appreciate you, and we're thankful that you've come in to help us with this work. I want to cover several topics to help you as you are working these projects with us. And so we're going to cover some basic things, and then we'll get into some safety topics that we're going to touch on. But again, thank you. You represent us, and so the better that you make us look, and the better of a job that you do, obviously it makes us look good. We get more work, and obviously we're able to then reciprocate and bring that work back to you for doing us a good job. Companies are looking for great employees. Okay, we have had several of our employees hired permanently by the different contractors that you'll be working for. So companies are always looking for quality employees. And so I just want to encourage you. I know you're here to make a check, but I want to encourage you to get engaged, be alert, be diligent, keep your eyes open for anything you can do to help. If you see something that you can assist with, maybe they're moving material, maybe there's a cord that needs to be moved out of the way, anything you can see that you can help or assist with. If they're moving some products, some pipes or whatever, again, anything that you can jump in and be engaged, help out, and act like you care about the project, people are going to see that. They're going to remember you. They're going to ask for you. And we have that happen. The employees that do a good job and stand out, these contractors, the ones you're going to be working for, they'll say, hey, can you send this person? They did a really great job. I want them no matter what. And some of these people even travel around with them. I know we're always asked, hey, I'd like to travel with a company. Well, you want to travel with one of these companies, then you get in there and you show them that you're different and that you really care about this project and you're trying to help them. Okay? Let's see what else we got here. Want to cover if you're riding together, and many times that is convenient. Maybe you have 2 or 3 people, maybe a couple that are riding together. Here's what we want you to do. We want you to have a plan B, because that driver, maybe they have a family emergency, maybe they can't make it one day, they get sick, or maybe something happens and they need to leave halfway through the shift. Well, you don't want that to mess you up just because they have to leave. You need to have a plan B. You need to have somebody on standby that can pick you up so that you can work out your complete shift. You need to have somebody that can take you. So make sure you have a plan. We may ask you about this because that's important. Because if you've got 2 or 3 people and now we're, down 3 people because one person that was driving couldn't make it. So that basically we won't be able to use you again because even though, oh, well, I couldn't help it, my ride didn't work. I understand that, but basically it's just you didn't work your shift. Maybe the person A did have a legitimate emergency, but you've got to make sure you have your plan B, okay? Want to start off with the morning that you guys arrive, guys and gals. The morning, make sure you get there in plenty of time. Get there early. The first day especially is chaos. Depending on the project and the location, there could be 1,000 people trying to get into this mill or plant, and it's like a small city, as you know, that have experience. And you're trying to figure out and get where you need to be and find the people that you need to be with. So make sure you give yourself plenty of extra time. Also, again, make sure you're on time every day. Okay, so we can make sure to keep you on the books for in the future. Please make sure, again, every day, especially the first day, you have all your PPE. That's your hard hat, your steel toe boots, safety glasses, earplugs, reflective vest, and gloves. Make sure you have all that every day, your PPE. Make sure you bring your lunch. A lot of people will ask me, hey, can we, there's a food truck or a cafeteria. Well, remember, you only get 30 minutes for lunch. You only get 30 minutes for lunch. So you may not have an opportunity to walk all the way across a meal, and then if there's a line and that's what you were counting on to eat, you only have 30 minutes. So take your lunch, so you'll be good to go, okay? But that first day, make sure that you have your certificates and all of your, sometimes you need your ID. And I would even say, make sure you have all your training certificates in hand, but also take a picture of them with your phone. And that way, as a backup, take a picture so that you have them, okay? But make sure you have your certificates in hand, but take a picture on your phone. So make sure you do that. Make sure probably before you even leave our office today, or if you're training remotely somewhere else, just as soon as you can, make sure that you get a picture. All right, also very important, listen to me on this. The first day, things are getting set up, okay? They're running around. There's just chaos. We have had sometimes that it might take, this doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes 2 or 3 hours. So if you're supposed to be there, you need to be there around 6:30 so you can find where you need to be. And it might be 9 or 10 o'clock. Now that doesn't happen, it's very rare, but sometimes that happens. So just make sure you're paying attention when I tell you this. Don't get frustrated, don't get impatient. You're getting paid, okay? So if they said, hey, okay, I'm in a meeting, this is your contact, this is the project manager or superintendent, we'll be up to get you in just a minute to show you where to go, whatever. Now you be where you're supposed to be, wherever that is, and you just do whatever you want to do. You're waiting, and it's their clock. So we just encourage you, be patient. Don't get frustrated. You're getting paid. So if you're not doing anything, you're getting paid to do nothing. So that's not a bad deal, right? So we just want to share that experience with you. The first day, just be patient, okay? Make sure you sign in and out every day, daily. Now a lot of people will say they'll sign in, and make sure you don't sign some kind of signature. Now listen to what I'm saying. Some people will sign their signature and it's a fancy, beautiful, wonderful signature, but we can't read it. So make sure we can read it. Make sure, probably print your name, okay? Print your name so we can read it, so it can be read. But make sure you sign in and out every day. This is your money. Again, listen to me. This is your money. This is what we're all here for, right? This is your money. So also, don't sign out. Like when you sign your name in, some people say, well, I don't want to forget to sign out, so I'll go ahead and sign out. Don't do that, because something may happen, might leave early, whatever, who knows. A variety of situations could happen, whether it be on your part or the meal's part, where maybe that shift, for whatever reason, you don't work all day. Don't sign out until you leave. But you need to remember, when you leave, sign out. Most important things right there, sign in and out. It's your money. See, if you sign out for the end of the day and you leave early, it looks like you were trying to steal time. And that's probably not the case. You probably were just saying, you know what, I'm trying to remember so I don't forget. But that's what I'm telling you. Lock it in. Sign in and sign out when you leave. Okay, very important. Make sure you do that. Also, along those lines, make sure if you happen to leave early, tell your supervisor, tell somebody, okay? Make sure that you communicate. You don't just leave, okay? Because what happens, sometimes they have to shut down the whole plant. They think you might be dead somewhere. This is an industrial environment. This is an environment where safety is very important. We have to keep an eye on everybody. And if you just do that, you will not be used again. If you just leave, you cannot just leave without telling your supervisor, I'm sorry, I have to go, I have an emergency, I have this, I have that, whatever it is, and make sure you sign out. Had a situation recently where they didn't sign out, so maybe the guy missed some hours, I don't know, he left. Make sure you sign in and out the way you're supposed to, okay? Make sure you stay off your phone, stay alert, stay diligent. We also want to say no chairs. The contractors we work with, They want you to be on your feet and alert, that you can move, that you can react, that you can respond. If you are sitting down, if you're doing fire watch, then that can be an issue. You might take a few extra seconds to put the fire out that may have flamed up. Now, if you're doing confined space watch or whole watch, that might be something different. You might have a desk. You may be able to sit down and take notes on that. Okay. Make sure that if you are doing fire watch or whole watch, confined space watch, attendant, either one of those, well, listen to me, very important. You cannot leave that post, that position, unless what you're doing is very important. It's very important. The work cannot take place if you're doing fire watch, if there's not a fire watch there, if there's not a whole watch there. Okay, they have to shut that down if they do not have a whole watch, do not have a fire watch. Get in a lot of trouble for you leaving. Okay, now maybe you had to go to the bathroom. Listen, you've got to go to the bathroom. That's normal. Make sure that you get somebody. Hey, can you stand here? Might be the superintendent, might be the project manager. Hey, I've got to go use the restroom. Can you stand in for me? Can you stand in for me while I go? I'll be right back, or whatever. Make sure that you don't just leave. If you do leave, make sure that you have someone to stand in for you. Okay? All right, let's get into some safety topics, and we're going to run through these really fast. Now, some of these things are not going to pertain to us. We're just going to touch on them just as documentation that we did. Also, you should have somewhere, probably if you're in our office, you should have a sign-in sheet that shows, but if you will sign every one of those pages, okay, there's probably 10 of them. So every page, because we're going to run through about probably 10 or so topics, probably a few more than that, real quick, but we're going to talk about them. And if you'll just, again, sign every page, date, sign and print. Okay, so let's talk about bloodborne pathogens. Bloodborne pathogens. Okay, first off, what is that? What we're talking about is the fact that with bodily fluids, blood, saliva, what have you, you can catch a disease. This is dangerous, right? You're not been trained really on dealing with bloodborne pathogens. So we would just say, obviously, don't mess with it, don't touch it. So you want to stay away from it is what we want to guide you. You haven't been trained really in first aid, most likely, unless you have, and that's another issue. But if you do have a toolbox, let's say you've seen the big toolboxes that some of the welders or fitters have in the back of their truck, these big gigantic toolboxes, maybe you're moving tools or whatever, blood could have gotten on that. If you are asked to touch something, make sure that you have your gloves on, make sure that you have protection. Maybe they've got some rubber gloves, but don't touch anything. Number one, try not to touch anything that has any blood on it. If you do, make sure you've got gloves on and that kind of thing. Make sure you're protecting yourself. But we would say, don't touch any of that if you can help it. Disciplinary. We want to encourage you, obviously, follow all the instructions that you're going to get in training. You probably have already received site-specific instructions, any instructions from your supervisors. Please make sure that you follow all of these instructions for several reasons, but to keep you safe, also that the work is accomplished and achieved and they know where you are, what you're doing. But just make sure that you're following all of the directions from your supervisor. Realize it's that kind of environment that if you can't follow instructions, if you've been working in industrial environments very long, you probably have heard the term, let's take you to the gate. When you go to the gate, that means you're done. And we probably have to put you on a list and we may not be able to use you again. So let's not let that happen. Follow the instructions, pay attention, be alert, be diligent, and you'll do well. Make sure that you follow all the rules that they're telling you that have to be done while you're there. Okay? Also, I want to remind you that think about when you're working in an industrial environment that you don't need to arrive to the gate. Let's say your shift starts at 7 think about it like a bus. You get on a bus and that bus has to go through a route and then you get there. So you need to be able to give yourself plenty of opportunity to get on the job there where you need to be inside the mill at 7 o'clock. So you've got to back that up, and that's why we encourage people to arrive at the plants or mills around 6:30. If your shift is starting at 7, to give you time to, in case you have a flat tire, to give you time to navigate and find who you need to be with and that kind of thing. Make sure you're where you need to be at 7 o'clock, okay? All right, let's talk about fire protection. Now, all of you may not be doing fire watch or fire protection, but if you are, we want to just touch on a couple things that can help you set yourself apart. You can clean the area up if you find out that you're going to be doing fire watch in a particular area and they point it out to you. Then you can begin to sweep up. If there's wood chips, begin to clean up any of that area, prepare it. If you do these things, these are the kind of things that if you do, they very well may hire you. Okay, if you will cause extra effort on your part, they're going to see it, and they're looking for quality people all the time. So also, you're going to make sure they should give you a fire extinguisher if you're doing fire watch. So make sure you are familiar with it. Look at it. Make sure it's charged. You know how to do that. There's a needle, and you can look at. There's usually a green section. That means green, good, go. Right. That means it's charged and ready to go. Also, probably will have a tag on it with a date. Make sure it's in date. But also make sure you're familiar with PASS, P-A-S-S. If you've done fire watch, you're probably familiar with that, or you may have just learned that. I think we have a video that goes into fire watch with more detail. PASS, pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. Okay? Pull the pin. Okay? Pull the pin with your finger. Aim the nozzle. Where do you aim it? At the base of the fire, at the seat of the fire. If they have flames that are going up, that's not where you aim the fire extinguisher. You aim it where the base of the fire, where the flames are coming from. And you, of course, squeeze and then sweep. And so you should be able to put it out pretty effectively and efficiently there. So also, when you're doing fire watch, they may give you a water hose that is also available. My preference is I use the water hose first, because if I need to grab the fire extinguisher and move somewhere that maybe the fire hose is not accessible to, then I try to save the fire extinguisher. But I would say continually check that water. In a paper mill or in an industrial environment or plant, sometimes when they're doing work, they turn off the power on certain pumps, and so the water, they may accidentally turn it off and not know it. So make sure you got the fire extinguisher. Make sure that you have the water hose that they give you, and you can just check it periodically just to make sure water is pressurized, okay? So these are things I've done. I had the opportunity to be a fire watch one time. Remember also that after hot work is completed, that the minimum time frame is 30 minutes, that area needs to be monitored. So if there's been any cutting or any welding, make sure that if this is your area that you've been in, so it needs to be monitored and watched for at least 30 minutes, because a spark could have fallen, obviously, and it might take 15, 20 minutes, and all of a sudden it starts flaming up. So even though they're done, monitor the area for a minimum of 30 minutes. Now, I've been seeing some information recently that said as long as even 2 hours, but a minimum, make sure that it's monitored for 30 minutes, okay? Again, we want to say whether you're doing confined space watch or whole watch, whole watch and fire watch, make sure that you don't leave your position there without having someone stand in for you, okay? All right, let's move on to first aid. First aid, you have not been trained and you're not really authorized or there to provide first aid. So we only want those individuals that have been trained for first aid to perform that. But I would also say that know where the first aid kit is. Make sure you know where that is. Could be for your benefit, could be for one of your coworkers. So anything you can do to assist a coworker that may have had an injury, know where it is for you and your brother. In safety, you are your brother's keeper. We look out for each other, okay? So we want to look out and keep an eye out for safety all the time. Make sure you know where the eye and body flush kit is. You know, you'll use your foot and you'll pump, and the water will come out to wash your eyes out or wash your body off or what have you if you've been exposed to some type of acid or some type of substance. Okay, moving on to forklifts and powered trucks. Again, you're not there to do any of that, but I'll just say real briefly, only those people that have been evaluated and trained on a forklift, a low lift, need to be operating that in this industrial environment. So you have not been sent to do that. So we are asking you, do not operate the forklift or the power trucks unless you've been approved to do that. But if you ever find yourself operating, make sure, watch for surfaces that are uneven. This could make your load fall off, damage something else, some other structure there. If you're ever going down a hill, if you have a load and you're going down a hill, the load could very easily fall off. So we encourage you to back up, and that way the load is against the forklift, okay? So if you're going down a hill, make sure that the load is against the forklift, okay? All right, moving on to another thing real quick about forklifts, powered trucks, is that make sure you don't exceed the limit, and they do need to be checked out, inspected every day. All right, now moving on to hand and power tools. Make sure you examine them, look and inspect them, make sure they're functional, they're safe, they're not falling apart, you're not going to hurt yourself. Make sure that you use your gloves when you are using hand tools. You can easily be prying something, doing something, and your hand slip and you cut yourself, bump yourself, hurt yourself. So make sure when you're using hand tools that you have your gloves on, okay? Make sure all the guards are in place for any powered tools that you're using. If you're cutting, you know, we had someone one time that was cutting with a razor blade, and they were pulling it toward them, and they cut themselves, and they cut an artery, and they almost died. So don't cut or pull toward yourself, even though that's the natural tendency because you have more force to do that. Make sure you push away. Make sure you cut away from your body, okay? So make sure you do that. Make sure that you always have your PPE and your gloves on at all times. Okay, hazardous communications. This has to do with any hazardous substances that are used on site that you may be working around. Number one, you have the right to know what it is you're working around, and they will have the safety data sheets that you can take a look, and we encourage you to do that. If you're working on any chemicals in an industrial arena, make sure that you're aware, how can this hurt me? Is it gonna burn me? Is it caustic to my skin like an acid? Is it poisonous to breathe in? Is it radioactive? So learn and know all the hazards of the things you're working around, and this is your right as an employee, okay? So you can ask, where are the sheets, the safety data sheets that you can read about them, and pay attention. Again, we're asking people to be alert and diligent, see what's around them. You know, many times today, folks are they're just disengaged. They're not paying attention. They're not alert. They're not diligent. Maybe they're trying to look at their phone. And again, we encourage you, do not look at your phone, Facebook, the social media apps, texting, only if it's an emergency. We ask you to keep that put away. And people will notice that, and they will appreciate, again, you'll stand out as a quality employee. So, but make sure that you are focused on what you're doing there. All right. Ladder safety is you may have to climb up a ladder, obviously to get to where you're going, whether it could be elevated height. Obviously, you need to make sure that if you're working in an industrial environment that you don't have a phobia of heights or of closed-in spaces. So make sure you're okay there, because you could find yourself working in any of those arenas. So make sure that you're good there. But if you have to go up a ladder, make sure that the ladder is in good working order. If you see any kind of damage to the ladder, draw that attention to your supervisor, let them know. You can only use ladders for the intended purposes. You can't build scaffolds and things with ladders. You can only use a ladder. It's usually designed for that angle. We call it a 4-to-1 angle. So if you put your feet at the bottom of the ladder and stretch out your hand, and you should grab the rung, that's about a 4-to-1 angle, and that's about where you need to be, okay? Do not use ladders on unstable surfaces, okay? Also, you need to make sure that you are aware of the weight limits. If it's a 250-pound weight limit ladder and you're 245 pounds and you've got 20 pounds of tools, okay, so be aware of that. That's not a that's a safety hazard. You need to find an appropriate ladder, and just do not exceed the weight limits of ladders, okay? You cannot make a repair to ladders. A ladder is something that if it does not function correctly, people can die. So you have to be approved to be able to make any repairs in ladders. Okay, so you're not allowed to, you can't put a screw in. Hey, this thing needs a screw right there, and then it's good. No, you're not allowed to do that. Don't do that. Can't do that. All right, we're going to talk about lockout, tagout real quick. You should know what lockout, tagout is. Lockout, tagout is when you are locking out a piece. It could be a piece of equipment that might release some chemical where you might be working, or some substance. And so you will lock that lever out, and you may put a lock. You have a personal lock, okay? It probably has your name on it, and it indicates that you're working in that area. So you're locking out, you're tagging out, and usually you have a key, all right? So when you are working in that area, you'll put your lock in the designated place. Now, a note on this, we have had one employee who he actually put his lock on the wrong place. Make sure it's for the designated slots for the locks, and if there's not one, then they may need to put an extender on that. But you can't just put your lock anywhere, okay? We had a gentleman who was a great employee, but he put his lock in an inappropriate, he may have put it around another lock, I'm not sure what he did, but he didn't put it around the appropriate slot. Well, he's banned from working in that mill. He can never work in that mill again. So make sure that you put the lock where it goes. But this is what lockout, tagout is. Okay, so lockout, tagout could be electricity that's turned off, that's not energized, so you don't get electrocuted. It could be holding back. Again, a substance, a chemical. It could be holding back some type of device that presses down or squeezes, or might cause some kind of bodily injury. So make sure that again you're aware of lockout, tagout procedures. Make sure your lock is in the proper place. And the most important thing, or one of the most important things to remember, is when you leave, make sure when you leave, take that lock off, put it wherever it goes, if it's your lock, or give it to whoever gave you the lock, because they want that back. But very important, take it off when you leave. If you don't, let's say it's end of the shift, 7 p.m., whatever, you're going home, 9 o'clock, you didn't take off your lock, it's 9 o'clock at night, and maybe the police come to your house because they don't know whether you're dead or alive, because this lock is indicating that you're still in some type of dangerous area. Maybe you got pressed, maybe you got injured, maybe you're dead, they don't know. When you leave, make sure that you take the lock off, okay? We don't want them to have to come to your house and look for you and that kind of thing, okay? Very important. Also, if you don't take your lock off, very good chance, obviously you could be banned from the mill, and we probably won't be able to use you again. So make sure you do that, lock out, tag out, okay? Drug, alcohol screens, you may have gone through an alcohol screen, you may not have, but whatever you've done to go through this procedure to get ready for this particular plant, make sure you stay good, okay? We have had situations where we've had individuals that have passed a drug screen, and then they said, well, I'm good. So I'm going to have a party this weekend. And then they even arrived smelling like some type of marijuana or drug. And well, they get drug screened and then they can't even work, and they've gone through all this time and effort to get ready. Don't do that, okay? And especially knowing that you're subject to random drug screening, especially in an industrial environment. We always want to remain safe. There's so much going on in an industrial environment. I think of industrial. What does industrial mean to me? It's big chemicals, big electricity, voltage. You can get shocked, hurt. Big machinery. You can get squeezed and injured in a variety of manners. So we must remain safe, and one of the ways we do that is to make sure we remain alert and sober, and not on any type of drug or what have you that would inhibit your ability to be safe. So make sure. Also, another idea to protect you. You could be injured. Who knows what can happen, right? You could even do something that's just innocent, trip, fall, and no one's fault. Who knows what happened? You have an injury. Now, if you have that in your system, drugs that are not prescribed to you, then, workers' comp insurance may say, well, this is your bill. You pay for that. You could have fallen and broken your arm. It could be $100,000, I've seen sometimes, for a broken arm. And but if you fall and hurt yourself, you want to be protected, and we'll make sure that you're protected, take you to the doctor if you break your arm, you fall, hurt you, whatever. So make sure that you don't have any of that in your system so that you're protected. Very important. PPE, we've talked about that. Make sure that you always have all of your PPE on: hard hat, steel-toe boots, safety glasses, earplugs, gloves, reflective vest, all of those things. So make sure that you have it on. And also, we have seen situations where maybe you're sweating. I would say close your eyes and then wipe your brow and then put your glasses back. We've seen situations like that. So make sure that you're always protected. Make sure that you have your gloves on, especially because those are things you can take off and forget. Okay, so make sure that you have it on all the time. I want to close by saying a little something about risk assessment, hazard assessment, safety. You are your brother's keeper. You are your sister's keeper. You're each other's keeper. Keep an eye out for safety. Okay, if you see something fixing to fall or something doesn't look safe, mention. If you see something, say something. Okay, very important. So make sure that you're keeping an eye out for those types of things. Maybe you can help straighten up an aisle to make sure there's no trip hazards. Maybe you see a cord that has laying on steps and you can push it to one side or the other. Make yourself valuable. See what it is that you can do that can make the area more safe. Again, keep your eyes open for any unsafe situation and bring that to your supervisor immediately if you see something. We don't want anyone to get hurt. We want to, as OSHA says, we want you to go home as you came to work. Okay, so that pretty much sums up everything that we have for you that we wanted to kind of go over today as far as safety and just some things to keep in mind as we get ready for these industrial projects. Thank you.